Hello, Teresa. Hello, Teresa, Alvarado, and Isa, Lapointe. How are you? I'm really grateful you're here with me. Thank you for being here. And we were talking about having a conversation, the three of us being in conversation on Real Medicine Talks, so it's really exciting, and it's a holy privilege to be here with both of you. And you are, Isa, you are a teacher and a visionary and a healer, and you carry so much good medicine for your people and for the world. So I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Teresa, you are a gifted artist and healer and visionary also, and teacher. And so thank you for joining us with your gifts and your talents. And you're also doing social justice work in your field and in all the fields where you go. And so I'm so grateful to you for joining us, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so the subjects, Teresa, that we talked about bringing in were about embodiment, and then we had been talking. The three of us have been talking about this evening that there's also the work around the cocoon, the ability, the quality of the cocoon, and the ability to be embodied, to experience ourselves as in our bodies. And so I was thinking about this, and I think the first question would be, I think we need a lot of changes in order to fulfill any of these like three things, right? In order to decolonize, in order to feel safe, or like we're in that cocoon, or in that process of gestation. And I think it's really interesting because what's coming to my mind right now is, Isa, you are cocooning someone. You are in gestation.
I am.
Right now, like, yeah, this is like a moment. So
Okay.
yeah, so I was curious about, what are your thoughts about the cocooning right now? I can see that we're being called to cocoon, we're being called to gestate, we're being called to, again, to reflect and to vision. And so what are your thoughts right now around cocooning and what's needed at this time?
You want me to go first?
That would be great.
Okay.
You want to, yeah.
So I'm really cocooning in all different directions. It makes me reflect on when I'm unbalanced and that I'm carrying another life, that I have to be mindful of that baby is still aware. I mean, like still forming, creating inside. And I don't want baby to come out with traumas or, fears, because baby's developing as well in the womb. Even though I can't physically hold baby, but I am, but not in my hands. So I'm really mindful, and I try to backtrack when I get off balance. I feel like we change with the weather. So adjusting to that, adjusting to our cocooning into every day who you want to be. Maybe yesterday was a tough day. Okay, how are we gonna cocoon tomorrow? And how will we get there? What are we gonna practice? What is our focus gonna be? You as an individual, who do you want to be? So for me, I cocoon every day in a different way, never the same, always changing. And cocooning a little baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
And even that, you know, different like it hiccups. You like I have 3 kids, but you forget and you're like, what is that flutter? So you look it up and you're like, oh, it's hiccuping, duh, you know?
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
So, you know, even the baby cocooning itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm cocooning. So it's just all together. And it's really did you ever see one of those pictures? I can't remember where I've seen it, but it's like you as your pregnant woman, and then there's the baby. You could see the womb, and then inside the baby, there's another like heart. So it's like generations.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that is so amazing.
That is
Like I have like 3 cycles, right? Me, the baby, and the baby cycle.
That's so powerful. And it's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, like, you know, how the heart is like, it's like the body is the cocoon for the heart.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and there's these different bodies that are cocooning. And then the heart is a cocoon for what we love.
Right.
Right. So that's like it's its own little separate cocoon. Speaking of Saffron, is my cat is like, yeah, like I had some things I wanted to discuss about cocooning. Meow meow. But it's so that's really, really powerful to think about. Like, oh, the heart is its own cocoon, you know. And I can see it, like Teresa, right now I'm looking at your tattoo over your heart. And just how beautiful that your tattoo is. And I'm just thinking about, oh, that's reminds me of that heart cocoon. So wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Isa.
Yeah, thank you, Isa. For me, the question came up about the cocoon because I'm going through a lot of changes in my life right now, and I feel like I've been wanting to see a transformation, but without the cocooning. I just want to see like I'm like, okay, I've seen all these changes. So where's the transformation? And what am I transforming to? Like, where is that? But I was having a conversation with you, Shara, and you asked me, well, what it seems like you're more in the cocoon, and what does your cocoon need? And that combined with other things that I've been doing have brought me more into going back and seeing what it is that I'm transforming to, and what it is that and staying more in the process as opposed to being in the final stage of transformation, but staying in the process and seeing what it is that I need through that process of transformation, and what kind of support do I need? Who do I need in my life to have that support? And how I'm able to ground on a daily basis so that I don't get out of that cocoon and I'm just maybe going into different directions that are going to get me out of where my transformation is going, but really going back to my center and really staying in what's happening today at this moment, and just going with each step and being more conscious of each step that is coming into my path. I suppose I'm very impatient, so I always try to jump the last step, but I'm trying really hard to stay in today, right now. And something that is helping me to stay in that moment is I also don't practice breathing a lot. I'm not conscious about my breathing. I know I do it because I mean, obviously, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be alive. But
It's a good practice.
but just whenever I see myself instead of being present in this conversation, and I see myself thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow and this thing and this other thing, then I really try to remind myself, okay, I need to go back into my breathing. And it's such a simple thing to do, right? But we so easily forget about it, and it actually works.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. Isa and I have talked in a couple of our conversations, but where the breath has come up a couple of times around, when we were talking about the senses and how the senses bring us present, and we did a whole really lovely conversation around that. But that the breath and all the tastes and the scent and the smells that come with the breathing, and how that can really embody us. That those senses, but the breathing, you're right, it works. It's like every time.
Yeah. I have something to expand on the breathing part. I go into the little first grade classroom, to go and help, and while my kids are at PE, and before their writing session, I taught them how to tap last year through the pandemic, breathing, doing all those kind of things. But the teacher had them tapping, and at that moment I was tired and I wasn't trying to do no writing. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, no. And we started tapping. And just as I was tapping, I felt grounded, like literally grounded on my chair. Just from those simple taps, where here, I was tapping here. And you can even tap like on your fingers, and I was in present time. I was, I felt myself sitting in the chair, and then we took a couple of deep breaths, and writing was amazing, but it took tapping to ground me at that moment, to know that I'm here. You're here, your children are here. And so it was really good. It was a good reminder. So tapping, people.
Make it happen. Yeah, tapping and breathing. And can you share a little bit about tapping, Isa?
Yeah. So you have anchors in your body that you have. You have one at your heart. That's an anchor. There's one right here too. But I noticed that when I just barely tap, it's not as meaningful. But I'm not saying, just go and tap, but, tap yourself to where you can feel yourself, your collarbone. You even have one right here, like kind of by your brow line. You can tap there. Yeah, it's so crazy. Like
it feels so.
You feel grounded. There's even one on your chin right here. And then above your lip, underneath your nose.
Oh, that feels so nice.
It does, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's just like calming. It's calming. Then there's here, right above your eyes.
Beautiful.
Then on your temples, on your sides. But it was just so grounding, just to feel you as a human.
Oh yeah, you feel just yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your deep breathing, taking a deep breath in, exhaling, and then doing it again, and then releasing all of that. And we were ready to write. And I was ready to go again. It was like like it re-energized me. How those people drink the energy drinks, but here I was tapping away.
Yeah, you're like, oh, now I'm all energized.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
Powerful. So beautiful. And so it's really interesting because, the cocoon, I just looked at the dictionary because I always like to do that, but it's so beautiful. It's like a poem. And it just said, cocoon is a covering usually made of silk that some insects, such as caterpillars, make around themselves to protect them while they grow. Isn't that the most beautiful thing? Like, to protect them while they grow. So I think, Teresa, like when I was thinking about our conversation, it was like, oh, this is what the cocoon is about. This is Issa, what's happening with the baby, right? Is like, oh, there's a protection so that we can grow. And we need to be protected when we grow. And and I think that when I think about decolonization, I think there's some kind of cocoon that we, so that everybody needs a cocoon so they can grow, right? And the process of decolonizing and being in a body, and and decolonizing is like, it's happening. There's a lot of people using this word now, and I always like Yellowbird, Michael Yellowbird's books and films and things that he's done and talks around it. But decolonization is we have this opportunity to grow. So what is needed, so that we can take this make this thing tangible, that needs to come out of the idea and come into making things right, or come into tangible being. So. Teresa, did you want to start?
I'll feed off of you, Teresa.
What?
Then I'll feed off of you.
You guys are so great. Yeah, I love it. Desired changes, what are some desired changes?
Desire changes in my own community, in my own home, within myself. There's so much that you can change,
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think about, like, for myself and for my loved ones, and and one of the things that Michael Yellowbird talks about is like, we need to go back to our ways of doing things. Like, what were our ancestors' ways of doing things? And our ancestors were paying attention to the earth and the air, and all of the seasons and the elements. And our ancestors, in order to survive, had to do that. But it also gave, like, an empathy,
right.
Like a relationship with the sun and with the trees, and so I think that there's something about how can we have meaningful activities that are going to help us remember who we are, and support one another, like, right? And who we really are, and also reclaiming who we really are, and the places, the people, our ancestors all waiting for us.
Right. So I've been doing some reading on I hope I'm saying this right, but it's pedagogy, like living off the land,
Mhm.
how but it could be like a pedagogy of elderly too. And so it's bringing it into the school system. You know, how do you teach from your land bases, what you have, what's in your surroundings. And so just how you said, you know, having a relationship with the sun,
Mhm.
you know, getting back to that, knowing that that's a spirit within itself, knowing that your spirit, the sun spirit, can be connected, and
Mhm.
it can help you, it can give you light, it can energize you, but it can also give other spirits light, energy to live, to grow.
Mhm.
And it, you know, to live that way of life would be amazing, right?
Right? Right? You know, I think so. Yeah, I
And
feel that way.
yeah, and so it's like we have to model that, and we have to try our best, because sometimes we can't fully get back to what it used to be, you know,
Mhm.
because again, we changed, we had to evolve into people, humans, due to our surroundings. So there's a lot of change, but we could get pretty close to what it used to be with our heart, having compassion, being a good relative, having that connection with all nations, all relatives, and bringing that not only in your home, but in your community, in your school, working all together. That would be pretty cool to do that. You know, I seen a thing in Alaska where they their standards, um they bring in the community,
Mm.
but you're also the school, um but then you're also with yourself. Like there's standards for yourself and how you should be, how you want to be, and it all intertwines together. And it's living off of, you know, the land, having that relationship. And so that's pretty cool that it came in here now.
It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And I think that I loved what you're saying about, you know, we can return,
Yeah.
you know, but it's going to take some effort. We're going to have to pull our heads out of our, well,
Yeah.
no. You know, there's going to be a little popping sound going around, but I can't believe I just said but we need to recognize that if we, you know, we are in a reciprocal relationship with this other being, and that, which is the earth and those elements, right? You know, but I think about how important it is to recognize that we can we have all our needs met. You know, it's just like, I like to say, what is it? Enough to spare and to share, enough for my need, but not for my greed. You know, and so I think that's one of the things that we're healing is, you know, we have a lot of greed in this history. You know, greed for power, greed for money, greed for sex, greed for land, greed for, you know, and it feels like there's just this need, a really deep need to address those things, and to come into like a more natural way of living, where we recognize our, you know, if I'm fed, if I'm, you know, walking, talking, if I, you know, how can I, you know, use that privilege and that gift in order to help to support a future where everybody is fed and everybody has what they need and everyone is right. So I'm curious. What are your thoughts, Teresa?
For me, what I would like to see, it's a process of unlearning. I feel like we've gotten to learn a lot about how a lot of things work scientifically, and we've learned a lot about how societies should be, and we have all these rules about what we should be doing, should not be doing, how we should be. And I feel like that has taken I mean, some things have been really good, right? Like you can go to a doctor now and get a surgery very easily in comparison to maybe many years ago where you would be bleeding in the forest and I don't know, trying to do everything. I don't know, like there's obviously advancements that are very beneficial, but at the same time, it's gotten us so far from who we really are, and it puts preconceptions on who we should be as we're growing, as opposed to allowing ourselves to have our own process and become and just be who we came to be. So I think for me, I would like to see a process of unlearning all of those things and going back to other systems that did used to work before. Something that comes to mind is a few months ago, I took a class about being a mixed race person, and something that was shown to us in that class was a document that puts the idea of white supremacy, but in terms of like actual behaviors, like perfectionism is part of white supremacy. And I don't remember the specifics, but it also had like the antidotes for those behaviors. And the antidotes are really ways of being that people used to have many years ago, our ancestors. So if we could kind of unlearn certain behaviors and go back to knowing, like redefine what power means, right? Right now, power is about what do I have and how much do I have and how much power I have over people. But that's not real power, right? Real power comes from being connected with yourself, with the universe or whatever it is that you believe that is greater than you, being connected with the earth. So if we can just relearn certain concepts of that we've been preconceived now. I mean, as soon as you are born, you're like fed into those concepts. Yeah, maybe if we can learn certain things, maybe we can start going back to more ancient practices and combine them with the new practices, because we can't just erase the new, right? It has to be the new and the old. But how can we bring out the best of both and combine them and create a new way of being and relating to each other, where we can support each other, and it's not about me, but it's about how can we
Us.
Yeah, us.
How can we? You're about to say, I apologize. What were you gonna
well, how can we be together? How can it be about togetherness and not just what I have to gain without worrying about anybody else?
Because we need us.
Yeah, we need each other.
We need each other. We are not, we are tribal creatures. We're pack animals. Human beings are pack animals, and we need each other for survival, but also for love and all of Maslow's theories, and so I wonder, but because, and I love this conversation, you guys, because we just happen to be facing like a social and an environmental crisis at the same exact time. Like, how convenient. Right? And so holy shit, how are we gonna, how do we, my curiosity would be, what are some ideas that you have around how to, address this? What are some goals that we might set, or what are some ways that we can act that could be helpful? Or maybe some ways we can at least advance. Oh, wise women.
Mm-hmm.
Wise sisters. Hmm.
I guess connecting with yourself.
Mhm.
So that way you're able to spread the love.
Yeah. No, really.
Yeah.
No.
And it starts within yourself first, you know? So it's like connecting with that inner self, you. So you're able to help others. Right. That would be I mean, that kind of fits all of it, right? Your goals, just being who you should be, or, you know, who you were put here on earth to be. You might find something that you have a passion for that you never knew. And it might be for, you know, being the voice
Mm.
for social justice, or even being the voice for kids, being the voice for elders, you know, the generations, being the voice for yourself. So I guess making a connection with yourself, and you might find all these different characters, behaviors that you can make a change.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I always think about like how can we send our love into the future? You know,
Mhm.
it's just like what are the ways that we can like send this love letter, this love note to future generations. And
Yeah, your like love imprint.
yeah, I love it. It's so good. It's like the baby handprints and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that is so powerful. Mhm.
And that kind of makes me think about the elders too, you know, like all the things they have experienced
Yeah.
from the right and the wrongs. They have an imprint that they're our teaching tool,
Mhm.
and we're someone else's teaching tool.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Like an instrument of healing and teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Mm. Mm.
So tap, connect, breathe.
Be a voice for the
Be
ancestors.
the voice.
Be the voice for the ancestors. The passion.
Right.
Mm,
Love
kind of-
yourself so you can love others. Love, I don't want to say, well, love others / all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's controversial.
It is.
That's yeah. And I fucking love that. Like, ooh, that's so fun. Let's be controversial, you know, but it's true. It's like, oh my God, love all, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like probably well, how the birds and the insects and everybody like, you know, they're like, "Oh, but I have to eat the, you know, I have to, you know, so it's
Right.
all about like, you know, the power of what the world is trying to teach us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we can be connected with ourselves, it also opens up for being more open and being able to be on a learning mode as opposed to just doing. But if you're more open, you can actually learn and see different ways of doing or being. Like we've been doing the same for many years and we see that it's not working, right? So being connected with yourself can open you up to try different ways, and learning from those new ways, or just be more receptive to what else there is as opposed to what you've been doing and doing and doing, and being more on the mode of being as opposed to doing as well.
Oh yeah.
A phrase that was brought to me a few weeks ago was being conscious of being conscious.
That's perfect.
Being conscious of being conscious.
Yeah.
It's like an aha moment.
Yeah, like, ooh.
Uh-huh.
It's big medicine.
It is.
Mhm. Marvelous. And so I wanted to ask, we also, if we're able to do that, it seems like those things in themselves, the, being conscious of being conscious, the, attending to our passions and attending to being a good relative, and all of these things are assisting us with being embodied, with coming home and being home in our bodies, and really being able to, like you said, is to love ourselves and love one another, and and like Teresa said, really presence ourselves and in the now, and right. So I'm wondering, I was talking with Teresa a little bit before, and we were talking, I was talking about my birthday, which was this last weekend. And I had the best birthday. It was so nice. I went to the healing waters. So I was in the healing waters for my birthday, and it was beautiful in the wilderness, and so lovely. And, I always look for the animals on my birthday, because they're always messengers and they have things to share. And these hummingbirds were just like so many hummingbirds. And of course, that reminded me of one of my mentors, my beloved mentor, Angelus Arian. And, she is always represented by the hummingbird for me. And then on the way home, we had, like, I always think, oh, I'm going to see them all in nature. And there were several other birds, but I won't go into the whole thing. But on the way home, my tire had a leak, which isn't good, So, and it was not one of those good leaks, nice, slow, So we stopped at a place. I stopped at a place to get it repaired. And the man who was repairing the tire had tattoos on the tops of his hands of birds. And they were beautiful. I was like, oh my gosh. And I thought maybe it was a robin he had on one hand. No, I thought it was a sparrow of some kind. And I said, oh, tell me about that's a really beautiful tattoo. Is that a sparrow? And he's like, oh no, this is a robin. And on the other hand is a meadowlark. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he said, because my grandmother told me that she always knew that spring was coming when she heard their songs. Mm-hmm. And so that was another, like, I just came, right? So the hummingbird brought me home to the ancestor, right? My spiritual ancestor, my mentor, Angelus. And then the meadowlark brought me home to my mom, right? And then, that embodied me more. And then the robin brought me. So it was just like, oh, it's interesting to think about how it's really nature that reminds me to be home, and it brings me, even if it's a human, right? And I have to tell you guys, like, none of the tire places had an availability except this one. Like, we called, and this guy, everyone else was like, hi, man. And he was like, oh yes, come. Oh yes, absolutely. Yes, we can totally help you. It's great, So again, it's that love, that generosity of spirit, that openness, that, and that embodiment. And of course, his grandmother, right? And the tattoos. So I'm just curious about what things help you to really feel that you can settle into the skin you're in, and be embodied in your expression of who you really are. Any ideas to share?
I'm just so stuck on all the signs that you had.
No, right? I know. I'm just so lucky.
You are.
Yeah.
and the pairs of hummingbirds. Then there were these ravens, these, of course, the ravens came in pairs. And I was like, okay, I get the pair thing. I get the, and then
Right.
4 and yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. I was really grateful. My greatest fear is that I won't see Anna. What?
I said very grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a fear that I won't see animals my greatest fear is that I won't see any animals on my birthday, and that would be very upsetting to me. So I'm really grateful I saw them. They're my friends, so it's kind of like, the real party is when if no birds come to my party, I'll be
right. And that's when it starts.
Right? Yeah, when they get there. That is real. That's so true. Beautiful.
So the question is,
what helps you to feel like you're home? What calls you home?
what calls me home?
True embodiment.
My prayer.
Yeah.
But also Sundance.
Yeah.
No matter where I'm at. If I'm you know how you feel lonesome, but you could be home in your own home. You feel lonesome. When I think of Sundance, or I have imprints all the time. There's imprints of so many years ago to this past one to, whatever. And it always brings me home, present. And I know I'm gonna be okay. No matter what. No matter what. What also brings me home is home security, feeling safe, protected, is when we burn sage, morning, night. I just feel grounded. And that smell can take me to many places. It takes me all over, and I just feel at home. I have to share something because it made me think of, I say prayer, I say all these things, but that's really how I want to live as an individual. And then that's my imprint I want to give my children. So baby Gunner was doing his writing and he had to put, I love a family member because, and then an action word, a verb, so he's learning verbs. And he put, I love my Uncle Ray because he prays with me.
Oh.
And he drew the Sundance grounds. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was not even, like his immediate circle, mom, dad, sister, brother, it was Uncle Ray. And, yeah. And I'm like, that's amazing, it touched me that this little 6-year-old here went back to a prayer that he bonded with Ray at Sundance. And they had that, they had that bond. They shared something. So I thanked him, thank you for being that for him. And also, we're a Catholic school. And he has little cloud bubbles by him and his Uncle Ray. And it says, Amen. Amen. So I was like, oh, what's the story on that? But I waited till way later and said, son, what does amen mean? Thinking, there was a big story. And he was like, duh, mom, when we're done praying, we say amen. I was like, oh. He was like, he said, we're exiting out of the gate and we're saying amen. I was like, oh, I get it. Okay. Like he has all these higher power thinking thoughts, questions. And, that's what I want. I want him to know there's a connection when it's my time or anybody's time that he has a bond with, that he has that prayer to come home to.
Oh.
And so as a 6-year-old, he had that. So I know that if a 6-year-old can figure that out, that so can anybody else listening, that you can find your home in a prayer. Yeah, that was so touching.
Yeah.
And as a mom, I was so proud.
Like, that's my baby. He's really smart.
And he's like my crazy kid, And he was just, that was his moment on prayer and person he loved. And I was like, right on.
Wow.
And his Uncle Ray was like, man, he's really vibing out on all, all the higher powers.
Totally.
And then he even drew himself like
Hooked in.
he drew himself minutes before that. I was like, cool, son, it's a lion and you're juggling diamonds, because that's what it looked like.
Right.
He was like, no, that's my mask. And I was like, your mask? Halloween's coming up, whatever. But he's like, no, that's my Heoka mask. And I was like, no.
Oh.
It was all over. I'm just like, all right, cool. We're praying. So it was good.
Yeah.
So,
he wants to be throwing that water at us.
Yeah.
Yeah. The final day. Oh my God, this is so funny. Wow, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Isa. Thank you for that beautiful story.
No, yeah.
So I feel like you, Isa, touched more on the spiritual side of being home. I would like to touch more on the physical side. For me, I've come to find out that to feel more grounded and in my body, I need movement. Even if it's just shaking, whatever I'm trying, like if something happens that bothers me, to come back to myself, if I can just physically just shake it off and see it like go out, send it to my spiritual guides that can handle it, or a tree that can handle it, but just like get it out of my system. Or in the mornings, I've started to do a practice where I used to try to pray standing still or laying, but being still. And now I'm finding out that for me to have prayer to flow better, I need to actually be moving while I'm praying. So maybe I'm just swaying, or maybe I'm, I don't know, jumping around or moving a little bit. I just recently I did a healing session with a person, and she was trying to send me back to my childhood where I felt really like secure and in my body and really safe. And I was like, oh, well, that feels like a very long time ago. But I remember that for me to feel in that way, I needed to be jumping around, just jumping around and kind of making sounds.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so I did that with this person, and she also did some healing. But after that session, like I came out into the street walking, and my walking what felt different. The way that I was relating to people was different. like before I was walking a lot, just like kind of curved and kind of looking down. And I felt a lot more open. I had much more movement in my body. And it made me feel very different. Like I felt embodied. I felt that I was present and that I could be who I was and just feeling safe within myself, no matter what was happening around me. And I also learned a practice that it's similar to the tapping, but you kind of tap with your fist on the wrists, on the, I don't know what you call it, the in front of your elbow. Yeah, this, and also,
make something up.
and also here on your shoulder blade, or it's the joints, right? The joint of the hand, the joint where your arm moves, the joint where you move here, and then on your hips and on your knees and on your ankles. And then one that what feels very powerful is right here, right behind your neck. And I've started to do that in the morning, and I feel like especially this one behind, just like it just wakes me up. I'm just like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready.
Great way. Yeah. Embody.
Yeah, and I also got to experience doing this tapping with herbs. So you have the sense of smell.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt even more powerful to have that, like just have the herbs, feeling the herbs tapping me and kind of clearing and waking me up. And it felt kind of cleansing and waking me up at the same time. And then you have the smell.
Right.
So for me, it has become more about having all my senses woken up and really feel my body, like really be in contact with my body. That is making me feel like, okay, I'm here, I'm ready.
So beautiful. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm wondering if you have any closing words that you want to say before we can do a closing prayer and close well. And
I encourage people to connect with themselves, love yourself, find your home, so you're able to leave that imprint with others.
beautiful. Thank you, Isa.
And I just like, it's so amazing that just here is like you two helped me open up just in our small conversation. Could you imagine like who else watches? So I'm humble that I'm here.
Yeah, I would like to invite people to also connect with themselves, but I do want to make the distinction that by connecting with yourself, it doesn't mean that you're disconnecting from others, because you need to be connected and then be in community. So I would invite people to make that connection with themselves, but then come in conversations like this one on connecting with people and sharing what they're learning and being open to learning from other people. Yeah, I really appreciate, I'm very, very grateful to be here with the two of you. I always learn so much from the two of you. And I love you both, so thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias. And thank you both so much for being with me. I love being with you. And it's always such a holy privilege and honor for me to be in your presence. And so thank you. Te amo. Gracias. Thank you. And Great Spirit, Creator, I thank you, great and beautiful mystery, for everything that you've given us and for giving us this ability to talk to each other and to have conversations that are meaningful and that open us to new worlds and new ways, but also that remind us of what is ancient that we must carry forward. Thank you for this opportunity. May what has happened here today, may it go in all the directions to whoever needs it for the highest good of all beings. Thank you. Aho, amen.
Aho, amen.
Thank you so much, both of you. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.